Welcome to the Corporation video series, How to Search for a Corporate Name on the California Secretary of State Business Portal website. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to search for the site. We're going to type in CASOS, which is California Secretary of State. And we get to the home page of the Secretary of State, and under Business Programs, we're going to click on Business Entities. It's going to take us to this screen where on the left-hand side under Online Services, it says Business Search. When we get to the business search page, we want to make sure that we identify what type of business we're searching for. So we're going to click for this example on corporate name because we're searching for corporations. So I'm going to type in ABC Enterprises Inc. So let's say, for example, that was the name of the corporation that you were looking for. So let's click search. And 20 records popped up, and we can see that they vary. There's some that have periods in between them. They have comma Inc. This one just has company. And the reason why is because the California Secretary of State does not distinguish between punctuations. They don't distinguish between uppercase and lowercase. Any of those things don't matter to the Secretary of State. Let's take a break and actually look at some of the rules and regulations and restrictions in naming your company. There's so much in your corporate name that you want to make sure that when you think it through, that you're not going to run into issues with registering the name. Again, there's no distinction between upper and lower case. There's no distinction between marks above letters, subscript, superscript. Those are things that they are not concerned with and that don't make a difference. The other thing that doesn't make a difference, when you're dealing with the corporation, when you're dealing with that business entity ending, all these terms are interchangeable, whether it's corporation, company, incorporated, incorporation, limited, corp, CO, Inc., limited, LTD, PC, or professional corporation. None of those business entity endings make a difference. If you said ABC Enterprises Incorporated or ABC Enterprises Corp., either way, it would mean the same thing to the Secretary of State. We want you to keep that in mind when you're naming. The other thing is making sure that your name is not deceptively similar to another name. For example, Samson Incorporated, Samson Corporation, and Samson Limited are deceptively similar. The other thing is to make sure that possessive or plural is actually deceptively similar as well. And the last example is words that don't make an impact, such as a, and the ampersand symbol, and or. Neither one of those make a difference when you're proposing a name to the Secretary of State. The next thing is also punctuations. Punctuation marks are omitting them, making them part of the word is not relevant either because they don't recognize them. So if you're going to have a question mark or even a symbol, the dollar symbol, those are things that are not relevant. They're only concerned with the actual words. Let's deal with corporation names that are substantially similar, but you can, and that means that you can get it, but you have to get consent. We run into this a lot where people will come and they'll propose a name and it's somewhat similar to another name, especially for this reason. They try to put a geographic designation in the name. So in the name, it might say Central California, Bay Area, it might say Orange County, it might say Los Angeles. Well, once you put a region on it, then it makes the public believe that there's multiple locations in other regions. So now you have to get permission from the original corporation to use that name, because if they were building a brand and wanted to duplicate it, you'd be in conflict with them. Another thing is these numbers. So like Burger King number 5, Burger King number 57, that requires consent because it lets us believe that there is a sequential order in how these particular corporations are being established. Keep all those things in mind when naming your corporation. And now we also have to be careful of, if you, let's say in the example, it has Grandma's Cookies Inc., and you want to incorporate grandmascookies.com because you're doing the online store, and you say, well, I'm not doing the store, I'm going to put .com on mine, and that's different in the name. Technically, yes, it's different, but it confuses the brand in the marketplace, so they're not going to allow it. So that, actually adding that, is not different enough. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule where you do not require consent. So you do not require consent if you are forming a church or you're part of an organization and you're indicating a different area. First Baptist Church of Sacramento, First Baptist Church of San Francisco doesn't require consent. Homeowners associations, mutual benefit, public benefit corporations don't require consent. Homeowner association exists, and they typically have the location, the name, those types of things all in them. The other thing is that if you're looked at by the Secretary of State as a subordinate chapter, so veteran of foreign wars, you also don't require consent. So those are some of the exceptions to the rules. If you are going to get consent, it has to be a letter, and it has to be from an authorized officer, and include that there's no conditions on you using the name. The one last thing that we want to deal with is misleading the public. And I'm sure you're wondering, like, oh, I just want to name my business. But again, the name means so much. And you're going to realize it when you're building your brand, when you are having an image on the internet, when you look to search to acquire your domain name. All these things are going to play an impact in you choosing your name. So the other thing is to make sure that you don't mislead the public. So one of the main things is false implication of government affiliation. If you didn't know this, cities, states, government agencies, they are also incorporated. So using words like agency, commission, department, bureau, division, municipal board, they can be misleading. So make sure that you don't include those words if you can in your corporate name. The other thing is a professional corporation. Some of you out there listening might be doctors or lawyers, and you are truly a professional corporation because you are creating it under that code that requires it to be connected to your state license. But if you are not one of those professionals and you just like the way professional corporation sounds, that is not going to work. That's misleading the public in thinking that you have one of those state licenses. So you don't want to do that. The other industry that you have to get consent for is if you're going to be an insurer. So you don't want to give an image that you are providing insurance or that you're an insurance agent without having the proper consent from the agency. Keeping all those things in mind, let's look at some examples when we're searching for corporations. Here we go. All right, so we talked about mixing up lowercase and uppercase letters. When we do the search and we look it up,